Playtown is a game, or so I've been told, and so is Toytopia, I guess. Personally, I would classify them as self-torture devices. Today, we'll have a look at both games, which I am not looking forward to. I'm Dark Lord Elliot. First, let's look at Playtown. Playtown was developed and published by Mascot Bros Studio, released on November 20th, 2023. Playtown is and has been deprecated for a while, so you cannot buy this game off Steam today, making this review kind of irrelevant. Anyway, Mascot Bros Studio. That's a really interesting name because it's a total lie. There is no mascot to this game, unless you count the one dinosaur in the game, which I don't. No bro would allow something of this quality to be released for actual money, and there was likely no studio because this looks like a cheap fan game that you could find on Itch.io, ModDB, or somewhere of the sort. This looks like a beta, maybe a first chapter, like a demo to what could be so much more. It isn't. I've played demos with more content than this game. Playtown starts with some dialogue. A father and daughter, I assume, talking about some necklace that was lost in the Playtown amusement park. The dinosaur apparently steals the necklace at the end of the cutscene that the mother gave the child before passing, but that's literally all we know about it. It's never mentioned again. Next, we're spawned into the game, and based on the height of the character, I can safely say we're playing as the father. There is no tutorial, no information about how to play the game. Instead, you're just dropped into it with hardly any explanation of what's even happening and expected to just figure it out. Thankfully, this game is so simplistic that it's not hard to figure things out, and quite a bit is completely contextual. Before talking about the story, I need to mention that whoever designed this game must be blind. I have never seen this much motion blur in a video game, ever. What's worse, the vignetting is so bad that it essentially makes anything past the left or right third of the screen invisible. You basically have to look directly at things to be able to see them. How in the hell are there controls for the frame rate, view distance, shadows, hell, even the foliage, but not to remove vignetting and motion blur? What were you thinking? Right, so after banging on every door, you'll eventually find one that opens, and you can press a conveniently placed literal button to enter the facility. Like, this is an actual button. This button doubles as a button to open the door. Yes, it turns like a wheel, but you activate it with a key on your keyboard. That makes it a button. Why is this a button? Next, you'll find yourself in this room with 3 doors labeled up as Playground Area, Stag Area, and Employee Training. Inside the Playground Area, you'll find the Crystal Machine, where you must collect 3 colored crystals, like this is Crash Bandicoot or something. The crystal is located in the furthest reaches of the specific area, and you have to return to the Crystal Machine and activate it to place the crystals. To start the Playground Area, if you go to the left, you will meet Stag, a giant 12 or so foot mascot creature that really wants a hug. Being the weirdo loners that we are, of course we know that touching him means certain death, probably. So we run away. If you follow Stag back to his spawning point, you'll find that his area makes no geological sense, and is just an out-of-place room, if you can even call it that. Stag is nowhere to be seen, teleported back into the infinite void where he waits to scare you, or me, or someone else again. After that terrifying encounter, somehow you don't immediately decide to leave and instead venture further in. Next, you find these spinning discs, which you must jump on to get across the gap, taking care not to get thrown off. You'll eventually reach the actual playground, where you have to find 10 dinosaur teeth in order to progress. These teeth aren't particularly well hidden, but instead are cheaply hidden, such as outside of the playground, on the discs, or all the way on the other side of the discs. The 7 actually in the playground area, those are all fine. Depositing the 10 teeth into the vase will give you the option to collect the crystal. For whatever reason, the crystal doesn't auto-collect like you'd expect any essential quest item to do. Make your way back and load the purple crystal into the machine, and you're about a quarter of the way through this mess. Next is Stag's area, even though Stag was already in the Playground Area. Right, well anyway, this is where the game goes from being functional to dysfunctional. In this area of the game, you're presented with 3 colors of pipes: green, yellow, and red. Green you can safely pass by, yellow there's a 50-50 chance, and red is never. Here are the problems. That's never explained, it's entirely situational, and even when you do things right, you still may end up getting screwed. So, you might think you can just go under a pipe. Nope. The pipe will violate the laws of gravity to scoop you up from under it into said pipe just to make you have to do the whole thing over again. At the back, you'll have to jump over some stones in the wire to reach another literal button. Head back the way you came and hope you can remember the pipe's order, but in reverse. In the next area, you not only have to do 2 sets of pipes, but you have to do both sets twice. Once getting into the area, and the second time once Steg notices you to go back, but with Steg chasing you. Or at least he's supposed to, he just appears to be standing there in my version. Anyway, back here you can find dinosaur teeth, a lighter, and raw meat? What is raw meat doing here? Something living willingly came here other than the father? Why? For what reason? Well, for plot convenience. Has to be. Start cooking the raw meat and Steg will come out and for some reason start chasing you instead of eating his now nutritious, barely cooked meat. Back at the door you came from, you'll find the green crystal. Good. Don't forget to drop that green crystal off now. The third and final area is the employee training area, which is by far the most bizarre. First, you have to find the red crystal, which isn't hard, just unexplained. Then you have to use said red crystal as a key card to open doors for no reason. This leads you into a room of literal lava, what used to be caged lions, thankfully they've escaped already, then a room full of oversized anvils. Your ultimate goal is to reach the 4th room where Steg is waiting. After awkwardly shuffling around the invisible wall, yes, really, eventually the anvil over Steg will suddenly and without warning drop. This kills Steg, who is an actual living creature. How else can you explain the blood splatter? Now find the hidden literal button, make your way back to the machine, and place the final yellow crystal in it. Although this game calls it orange for some reason. I guess one of the developers was also colorblind. Add that to the list. Head back to the original playground door and head into the secret area with one of the worst hidden buttons in this game. Now that's just cheap putting it up so high. For shame. Now you're about ready to drink Steg's elixir, which I assume is his blood, brine, or perhaps something else. If you know, then you know. I don't, so I don't. Anyway, this leads to the final quarter of the game where you escape this random room in some clearing of the forest, which has some detectives' photos of long ago crime or something, with weird pictures and no context. You're going to some underground lair or some such, then the credits roll. Who would want to take credit for this abomination of a game? I guess you have your answer. For some reason, in this trash game, the developers expect you to want to watch the credits again and programmed in a repeat function. No, really, hear me out. It takes a Tiber Septim level of ego to make a replay credits button in a game, especially one like this, if you get the reference. At a certain point in the game, apparently your character develops Parkinson's disease. He's shaken real bad when standing still in some areas, but not at the start of the game. Great. Honestly, that's about how I feel. Also, the textures were popping in and out with the character being only around 3 feet away. That's honestly impressive that they couldn't even figure out MIP mapping. Impressively bad, but still impressive. Oh, and the frame rate is about as fluid as spit, especially for 120 frames per second. The motion blur probably doesn't help any in that regard. Overall, this game gets a "You Tried" sticker, which devalues that expression and sticker. This game isn't worth playing, and the developers need to try harder, loosen up their egos, and reevaluate what the game is even about. At this point, I have no idea what I even just experienced. I can't unsee what I've done seen. Next on the chopping block, Toytopia. Or no, actually, it's Toytopia. Let me explain. Before you can even launch this game, you have to go in and rename the executable to toytopia.exe. Now that's amazing quality control there. How was this never fixed? How long would that take to fix? That's dedication. Anyway, Toytopia is the next game in the same series of disappointing garbage games from the same developers, this time going under Combo Bomb Games. The names aren't the same, but you can most certainly tell it's from the same people. In fact, only the release date is different, with this one being released on February 19th, 2024, roughly 3 months later. It's like when a company changes their name every so often, like on Amazon. Do you want the Tashava or the Bobaneath? Trick question. Same manufacturer, part number, even down to the same company behind the product. We have a word for this in English. Deception. Not that any for-profit entities of any persuasion would give a damn about that. Toytopia differs from Playtown by being a game where you investigate a park. Because reasons. Okay, the story is the same unbaked trash as Playtown. I said unbaked, not half-baked. Half-baked implies that there's something here worth salvaging. Unbaked is when there's nothing to begin with. Both of these games fall directly under unbaked. Here in Toytopia, you're some sleazy investigator that doesn't care about the kids that went missing. You're just looking for a good story that will get people interested in your paper, or website, or whatever. It's underwhelming to the point that it makes Super Lucky's Tale look like a functional story.
Well, actually, I don't think it's possible to make Super Lucky's Tale look coherent. So I guess fair enough.
Right, anyway, the game starts with you, the character, in some circular room. What you have to do is never really explained, you're just breaking and entering. I will say that this is a lot better than Playtown, because in Playtown, you had several doors that you had to check each and every one. In Toytopia, you're given one door and they move the nonsense of multiple unopenable doors to the hallway 20 feet down. Credit where it's due, it's evolving, just stupidly. There's something about a wand, but I'll be honest, I wasn't paying attention. At the end of the hall, you do indeed receive some kind of a wand, and apparently that opens doors. Neat, but unfitting to the game, lore, the game's lore, and the target audience that would likely play this game. Once through the big doors, you'll see this big bastard at the top of a slide. Of course, being the dumbass you are, you go down too. There's some blood over on the side, but that door doesn't open. There's a perfectly good exit right in front of you, but you wouldn't be interested in that anyway. No, instead you have to flash these eyes, then jump into the ball pit where you're jump scared by this thing. I have no idea who or what this is, but of all the things I've ever seen, this thing is definitely a thing. You're then taken off somewhere else. You wake up a little while later in an unrelated part of the facility. No idea how you got there, where you are, no reason to ask at this point. Now you have to find your way out. I was unable to do this my first time. There's this room off to the side that has this thing inside of it that the eyes follow you. Neat, but creepy as all hell. Next there are these 5 lights, and I was unable to figure out if there was an order to them, or what the key was, or anything of that sort. Basically, I was stuck here and couldn't understand if there even was a way out. So, this is where I gave up on the game originally. Since then, I've been made aware that there's this tape recorder right in the middle of the room, which has an actual tape in it. And what's more, the guy actually tells you what the code is. Cool! Next, you go through a door to a literal underground railroad. If there's one thing scarier than a hallway that you can theoretically get caught by a thing, it's when the hallway has 3 possible points of entry. And wouldn't you know it, here's a jump scare too. Actually, this one kind of made me laugh. This creature, whatever it is, apparently doesn't have the sense to grab you, so it rushes right towards you, letting you see its inhumane speed in the process. Then it just stands there, not doing anything. So after it despawned and respawned a few times, it finally killed me, I guess. I was able to get through the black blanket of whatever this is a couple of times, but I couldn't figure out a way back, or out. When that thing finally did kill me, that's it. I'm done with this game, now and forever. I'd like to take a moment to really appreciate the volumes in these games. These aren't really loud jump scares like I'm used to seeing with other forms of what some would call horror. No, this game actually takes you into consideration and gives the volume a much needed lowering, not boosting. So, if nothing else, it has that going for it. It won't blow out your speakers, unless you've got the volume on some ridiculous level. Toytopia has a problem that's unique to itself and was not in Playtown. Somehow, they incorrectly named the executable, so Steam is looking for toytopia.exe. This oversight has persisted to this very day, and instead of even attempt to fix this abortion of a game, they simply pulled it from the Steam store. Tragic, or so you might be told by lesser reviewers. In all honesty, removal is the best possible outcome because I don't have to give this game a score, though any score I could give, even in a world where I was forced to, say at gunpoint, would devalue my other, more serious scores already given, as if some of them don't already. Combined, and as a joke, these two games add up to a 0 out of 10, meaning do not play them ever, even if you can find them. In their current states, these are garbage games that don't deserve to be played. Ultimately, this story does have a happy ending though. They removed both of these filthy games from the Steam store, which makes it marginally better than alternatives, but only marginally. I mean, Steam may just have the biggest collection of PC games that just work, but ultimately that means that games like these can be brought onto the platform, and allowing this filth really only serves to make Steam, or any given platform, worse by association. If these games were released as alpha games, with clear indication that there was more work to be done, and they asked for $3 each, no problem. We could even make the joke that they're as real as a $3 bill. If that were the case, I would have given the developers a full list of issues to fix and actually tried to help make the game better. Wouldn't be the first time. But instead, they released these games as finished products, insufficient for any amount of money, devoid of any heart or soul, put purely on the platform for profit, then pulled from the store instead of fixing the underlying issues. These are not the actions of a healthy, rational development team, or of someone making something for anything more than a dishonest buck. Good riddance, and I shan't shed a tear. To put this in perspective, it'd be like when I was Electro Galaxy. If someone told me that one of my songs sucked, I just delete it and pretend it never existed or happened instead of taking the other person's perspective, constructive criticism, and acknowledge my work isn't perfect. If such a thing even could exist. And if I gave up so easily, I'd never have gotten to Vendetta, my first EP in 2018, Evil Beach, Fantasia, Matrix, or I Dream in 2023, or even my present magnum opus, Jack the Ripper, in 2024. Of course, just because it's better doesn't mean that it's good to begin with. It's all about persistence, learning to do things right, and having the balls, or the desire, to stick it out. Yes, that's a dirty joke. And with that, I'm Dark Lord Elliot, and we're done here. I would have requested a refund, but given that these games are now off the Steam store, somehow knowing that I partially paid the developers to remove their games from the Steam store, that actually makes the price worth it to me. And that's kind of messed up.